You're listening to Jazz After 9 on this Friday night in Winnipeg, and I'm very glad to welcome back in studio someone who's been a guest on the show back in March of last year. It was around the time they were handing out the Junos, and it was quite appropriate at that time because he was just freshly a Juno winner, Mike Rud, who was the winner for his album Notes on Montreal. Welcome back to Jazz After 9.
Hi, Neil.
You're here this weekend for a pretty special event, your concert with this album, backed by the Winnipeg Jazz Orchestra.
Yeah.
That must be a bit of work because the original sort of orchestration for your album involves a lot of string. Here we're talking about a lot of brass.
Yes. Yeah, it's been an interesting sort of tributary of this whole project is winding up with sort of a big band version of the book, as it were, of the tunes. So this will be the third time that these have happened. They happened in Saskatoon with the Saskatchewan Jazz Orchestra last November. And then also last November, the Orchestre National de Jazz de Montreal played it as well. And so this will be number 3 of doing it with horns instead of with strings.
Yeah. Now, do things change as you go? Because I know in this case you've worked, like for instance, Jeff Preslaff is working quite closely on some of these arrangements as well. So do things sort of migrate and change a bit as we go here?
Yeah, definitely. Jeff did, of the 6 Notes on Montreal tunes that we have big band versions of, Jeff did, I think it's either 3 or 4 of them. And Jeff's approach seems to have been to very much take the string arrangements that I had done and expand them into big band arrangements. So they stay very close to the original types of lines that I wrote in my arrangements. But some of the other arrangements were written by Dean McNeil, who's a trumpet player who's coming in from a very fine arranger and writer. He teaches at University of Saskatchewan. And he's going to come in and play with us. And he did a couple of the tunes as well. And his versions are a little more reimaginings slightly, which makes it a little more of a challenge to rehearse them because these tunes that you have all these instincts on from playing many nights of them in, say, quintets or with the strings. And then now the Dean's versions of them are a little bit different, so we kind of have to keep our eyes open.
Okay, yeah. So it's like new material almost every time.
At times,
yeah. Well, let's recap a bit here, though, for anybody who's not quite familiar with the album. This is really a very unusual project when you come to the concept of most vocal albums. Most vocal albums usually are a bunch of compositions by the artists, and usually the songs are kind of standalone in that way. But with this album, this is more of a sort of a landscape, as it were, about Montreal, where you live.
Yeah, in the 70s, this would have been called a concept album.
Yeah, very harmonium-like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Jethro Tull or something.
Or something like that.
They're all to do with Montreal as it's painted in the literature that's set in that city. So pieces are influenced strongly by Michel Tremblay and Gabriel Roy and Mordecai Richler and any number of other authors as well.
Yeah, and also your own observations from yourself. Like you go on these walks and you sort
That's
of
right.
See things for yourself and say, hey, there may be a story I can use there.
That's right. Yeah, and even types of characters. Like there's a tune that's got to do with Barney's version by Richler. Well, that's, he didn't just do that out of a vacuum. Some people will say that there are autobiographical components to that character, but also if you go to those pubs that he frequented, you'll find no shortage of people who taste an awful lot like Barney Panofsky did.
I'm surprised nobody sued him over that book. For this performance, of course, let's not forget Sienna Dahlen, who is your sort of, the voice of the album.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, she can't join us tonight, but she will be coming in tomorrow to rehearse with the orchestra and yourself, and then she'll be on stage on Saturday or Sunday. What can we expect? Now, she's going to have her own role within your Notes on Montreal, but she's also going to be doing some other stuff with the jazz orchestra. Yeah,
the thing about Sienna... if you listen to this record, you could be forgiven for thinking that she's a very straightforward, artistic, popish singer with a golden voice and fantastic intonation and all that stuff. She really plays it right straight down the middle on this record. But for years, she's been a top drawer jazz interpreter, and so what that means is she's got the same skill set as any improvising horn player or whatever. So when you want her to come and play a number of tunes with a big band, it's not a problem. She, so she'll fit right in on some more straightforward jazz repertoire, which she also really brings the meaning out really beautifully.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, you two actually got to sort of be co-equals in a sense when you performed at the National Arts Center in Ottawa recently, because you sort of stripped down the whole concept of your album there.
That's right. Well, I thought when I was writing these songs, first of all, I really very much had her in my head, because we have a kind of a long relationship of playing together, and even playing together duo. We've done a fair bit of. We've had a few restaurant gigs back in the day where it's just me and her. Mm-hmm. And the difference being between her and maybe other singers I've worked with, you can take some pretty serious chances in the moment and change things up, and it doesn't really throw her. She can give back as good as she gets. So we went and played the NAC and did the whole, pretty much, well, I guess it wasn't the whole show, but we played a good bunch of selections from the record in duo. I also wrote them in such a way that they could reduce to that kind of format, because in order to see if they were good, sturdy tunes, I was just playing them on my own, singing them on my own many, many times. So I knew that they could, that there was a core to them there that you could rely on, even if you didn't have a bunch of expensive string players around to play with you.
Yeah. So do you think at this stage that you've got pretty good value out of that Juno win for this album?
I would say so.
Yeah?
I would say so. Yeah, we did a little tour of, we didn't get to Manitoba, but we did Victoria, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Saskatoon in November. We did the NAC last weekend, and then that's in Ottawa, and then we did a beautiful show with the full ensemble, with the original strings from the record at a club in the East End of Montreal called the Lion d'Or, the Golden Lion, and it's like a sort of 20s or 30s Art Deco style place, just beautiful club, and it had a killer sound system, and it was just marvelous. And we've still got some more work coming up, but I feel very, very happy with how much this project has gotten to get out and perform for people.
Okay, well, in the terms of what have you done for me lately, you must have plans for something else beyond this.
I do, but you have certain urges with vis-a-vis creation, mm-hmm. and they're not necessarily in line with
people's expectations.
Maybe what a production line would it might. For example, I put in a couple of applications for grants to do something like Notes on Canada, and at the time, I meant it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll read all the stuff, because I've lived in a bunch of these cities. I could kind of do the same concept.
Yeah, you've been in Edmonton, Vancouver,
Victoria.
Got experience with Manitoba.
Lived here a little bit, and Toronto a bit, and Montreal. And then now, a year and a half after putting those in, I didn't get them, but meanwhile, I started practicing material for a solo show, guitar and voice, mm-hmm. and it's primarily jazz standards.
Have you done much singing before?
Yeah, I've been singing in clubs and restaurants. I'm no Sienna Dahlen, but I can definitely get through the tunes and bring something worthwhile to the listeners. But the star of that is that the guitar arrangements are really quite unusual. Every song is a different exploration of this theme of kind of a contrapuntal nature between the voice and the guitar. So I'm singing lines and playing separate lines on the guitar, or sometimes singing together with what I'm playing, sometimes not. It's been a long time in the works. I'm going to record it in April.
And hoping to have it out probably same year? Or?
Summer, I would say, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, me too. It's been totally different experience from the last record, in terms of, just one guy, one guitar, how much entertainment can I pack into the experience.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you very much for coming by this evening, to promote this concert with the Winnipeg Jazz Orchestra. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you on stage with Sienna and the WJO on that day. With that thought in mind that about you singing, we were discussing about what to play as we end off this interview, and you suggested that the final cut on Notes on Montreal, the Alley's Where to Start, because you do a bit of singing in the background, so to speak.
That's
there.
right. Yeah, the producer said, we've got to get your voice on this record. It's got to happen somewhere on here that you finally sing on a record. So
okay.
Yeah.
And what about this song? Let's just set it up.
This is the one tune on the album that does not pertain to any particular literature. It's just a heart on the sleeve love letter to the city. Dave Frischberg wrote a tune once called Van Lingle Mungo, and it's all names of minor league ball players. And so I kind of Van Lingle Mungoed the streets of the city. So it's a list of places on a kind of an imaginary walk through the town, and it, as I say, it doesn't pertain to any particular book. This one also has the distinction of being the only one with any French in it. Half of this tune's in French. There's a translation by a Parisian friend of Sienna's named Yves Dorisson.
Okay, well, thanks very much for coming by tonight. I wish you all the best. You're listening to Jazz After 9, and this is Mike Rud with the Alley's Where to Start on Classic.
Une cloche au loin m'appelle, mystique, elle m'ensorcelle. Je joue avec les stars.